Hey guys, this is Kyle from Good Gaming and Collectibles, and today we're going to be working on these 3 faulty PlayStation 3 consoles beside me here. These are part of a lot of 17 faulty consoles that I've bought. We're doing a series on these where we try and repair as many as we can, and I'm going to show you how much I make or lose at the end of all of this. Today, the first console that we're working on we think's been misdiagnosed in the past. It said it had a video fault and a disk drive fault, but when we tested it, it was working. So we're just going to do a bit of a service on that one and a tidy up and get that ready for sale. Secondly, we have a console that does have a disk drive error. We plugged this one in the last episode and confirmed it would not read my Call of Duty disc. So first we're going to be testing the drive with a DVD just to ensure whether that plays or not. Then we've got an idea whether the laser is faulty just on the Blu-ray section or if it's a DVD and Blu-ray fault. That should also be a pretty straightforward repair, especially as we've got a lot of spare parts here for these consoles. And then lastly, we do have a console with the yellow light of death. We're going to try and get the syscon codes from that console, figure out exactly what's wrong with it. I suspect it's going to be the neck tokens, and if that's the case, we'll replace those with capacitors and see if we can get that console working as well. So let's get stuck into it and see how many we can get fixed. All right, first up, we've got the CECHK that doesn't appear to have an issue. So yeah, as I mentioned, we're going to do a service on this one and a bit of a cleanup. This console actually still has the factory warranty sticker on the top here, so no one's actually been in here before. I will be the first. We'll get started. First thing, we've got to get this top cover off by removing the label I just showed you. I usually like to use 2 tools to help get that out, so you can kind of pry it out with 1 tool and then grab it from behind with another tool. That way you're not tearing the corner off of the thing. Everyone probably has their own way of doing it. This is a really resilient piece of rubber though, so there's not much chance that you're going to damage this piece. For organization, I use one of these, so I work from left to right, top to bottom, sort of like how I read a book. And the first screws that I'll remove from a console I'll put in here. As we progress, I can put some small parts in here as well. With these ones, this pops out so you can actually create a bigger space to put some of the bigger components in as well. So these have been really handy for me. It just helps me keep track of the order that I've disassembled something in. And when I reassemble, I know if I've got 2 screws in here, that's my next step, find the 2 screws for that, and then move on to the previous screws. All right, so with that out, we've got a little security screw in here, so I'm just gonna grab my special bit for that. We're going to have a small grievance today, and that is that this screwdriver normally has a magnetic end in it, and for some reason the magnet has stopped working just yesterday. There's no debris in there that I can see, so I don't really know what the go is with that, but as a result of that, it's not picking up screws with the magnet. So I'm trying to use something like this that still has a magnetic tip on it to get my screws out. It's not really ideal. So with that off, these covers, they just slide off. They slide backwards and they lift up. This does make it pretty easy to clean them when they're off the console as well, so you can get into the underside. And these are actually a little bit transparent. It's hard to see in this lighting, but sometimes the dirt can show from underneath this cover through to the top side. So it's worth giving both sides a good clean up. So I put these aside until the end and clean these when we're ready to put the console back together. Can already see there's going to be a fair bit of dust build up in here, but again, this console hasn't been opened before. We're going to be the first, so there'll be a lot of dust built up in here in front of the power supply and probably in front of a disk drive as well. I like to use a drill to get these screws out. They're just normal screws, they're quite long, so the drill helps speed it up. Again, my drill doesn't have a magnetic piece, so we'll struggle here for a sec when I get the screws out. Done, make sure I didn't miss any. We're all good. So with these consoles, there's a little tab at the back here in the corner. That is what lifts this lid off. So I'll just put my finger in here and then squeeze and lift up. Sometimes I need a little bit more force than others. So now that is loose. That is the most important part for getting this piece loose. Now it's loose, it lifts up from the back. So it tilts forward and then lifts up, and then you find out what is on the inside. So yeah, this is going to get a nice little bit of a cleanup. Yeah, she's dusty in here. It's actually a little bit dirtier than I was expecting. Those are cobwebs. They look really, really old. And yeah, the dust is pretty consistent just all the way around this thing. It doesn't sound like there's anything loose in here though. Sometimes you get snapped bits of plastic and stuff like that you can hear. I'm gonna take this outside real quick and just hit it with the air gun, this thing here. I just don't want all the dust blowing around my room, and then we'll come back and we'll start unplugging this and tidying this up. All right, so looking a lot better. Just using that air gun and the paintbrush here just to loosen up some of the dust makes a massive difference, makes it so you can actually work on the thing. So next we want to take this stuff out to be able to get to the motherboard underneath everything, because looking at the state of this, the thermal paste is going to be awful. We can definitely see corrosion in this console as well, by the way. So, you know, a perfect console won't be discolored like this. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to encounter any bad damage. I've seen plenty like this. So yeah, we'll get these components off now. I like to start with the power cable for the power supply, which is just here. Pinch all 3 wires together and squeeze. Definitely don't want to pull them up via 1 wire, otherwise the 1 wire can come out. I have not broken a connector or ripped one off of the board by pulling the 3 wires together. So pinching them on the side together like this to distribute the force evenly. Same goes for the disk drive connector, just giving them a little wiggle as they come out. And then, being a K model, this has got the USB connector here. So the USB board is separate to the main board. Some of these consoles have this as one piece and you don't have this ribbon cable here. This one just has 2 ribbon connectors and tabs on each side. I like to just get my pliers under here, get a decent bit of length of the plier underneath the tab so that we're not snapping it off. And then just gently pry that up, and then this should come out. And then same on the other side. You just want to be really gentle with this stuff because it's 20-year-old plastic and it can snap quite easily, and if that snaps, you're not going to be seating your ribbon cable properly and it may not work. Now with that, I'd like to come to the back of the power supply, and you've got the main connector for the power supply here. You lift these wires out of the way and then pop the top off here. Get this out. There's one more connector here. This is the power connector for the fan. If we're not disassembling to the point of removing the fan, we'll leave it connected. I suspect, given how much dust was in this console, we'll be getting to the fan. So I'm just going to disconnect this now, and I'm going to remove the ground screw from the console as well, which is just beside it. And then while we're here, we've got 2 screws on the side of the power supply here. 2 more screws at the back here. And just 1 more up here. Okay, so with all of the screws out and the cables disconnected, the power supply now comes out. There's 2 prongs under here, so this is where we're going to focus the energy on to get this thing out. It doesn't take too much, but I've got little fingers, little skinny fingers, so I can get them under here and just apply some leverage to that one corner while sort of lifting the rest up, and it pops out. Not very gracefully, mind you, but yeah, it's out. So this will get a little bit of a de-dust before it goes back in the console, and that will be it for that. Right, so we got some more dust in here. We're just going to spray this out. Cool. And then there's 1 more ribbon cable that holds the disk drive in just here. And again, you want to be careful with this piece. With that flicked up, just lift it to the side to get it past this cable here, and the drive itself is out. Now we're getting closer to where we want to be. Down the front of the console, I've got the Wi-Fi connector, so just going to lift this up with some tweezers, pop that off, and we're going to start working on the screws for this part of the board. So there's a lot of small screws and some slightly bigger screws. Okay, we should probably pop the hard drive out as well. I haven't got to that point yet. Okay, with the hard drive out, we can get the hard drive cover off. Easy. USB cover off, USB board out. You'll probably find a bit of dust under here. Not that bad. That's going to get a de-dust before it goes back into the console. Okay, with all of that out of the way, I usually leave the Wi-Fi antenna just sitting how it is here, and then this top cover is going to come off. So I usually just lift it up from the front here. Pop that aside. More dust bunnies. probably do all dedusting for this console outside. Next up, the motherboard is coming out. Sometimes they're a little bit difficult to get out because the old thermal paste is still adhered underneath. But same as before, I just lift up from the front. Might take a little bit more force than you're comfortable with, but it will come free and it's not going to damage anything. This one didn't take much force at all. Just lift this up gently and, well, yeah, that's why it didn't take much force. There is little to no thermal paste left on this board whatsoever, so the service is a good idea. Seeing as this console was working before, we're not going to go too crazy with it. I'm going to remove as much dust as I can with the brush, and by blowing air at it, I'm going to replace the battery, clean up the thermal paste and get the board ready for new paste, and then we'll get into the fan assembly and give that a quick tidy up as well. So I think we'll start with the battery so I don't forget. New battery is here, ready to go in. Beautiful, so that's done. Get the brush here and just try and get some of this out of the gaps. Okay, looking a lot better, particularly in this area here, which is very typical for them to build up dust. Nice and dedusted. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a lot better than what it was. All right, next up, I'm going to clean the thermal paste off. So I use isopropyl alcohol, 99.8% in this one, and I also have a dispenser for it here. These are super handy. If you don't have one, I definitely recommend getting it. Squeeze this enough times and alcohol will pool up in here, and then you can easily dab paper towel or a cotton swab or something like that into this. Yeah, I'm almost happy with this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a good sign when you can read the RSX logo on the front of the chip there and the cell as well. You might find that you've got little scraggly bits on the edge. You can go to the effort of cleaning them up if you really want, but they're not really going to make any difference. I'm just going to give it a final pass over with one more clean bit of paper towel. Cool, so that's all ready for the new thermal paste, but before we do that, we're going to get the rest of the console apart and give that a clean out. So this is what we're looking to clean up. I am going to take this outside as well because there's just too much dust flying around in here and that's a little bit annoying. But just to show you, this piece literally just lifts out from the front, the same as the last two pieces did. And then from there, we've got access to the heat sinks themselves that also have thermal paste that need to be cleaned off. And then the fan assembly, so there's a few screws that hold the fan itself in this housing that can be cleaned. We can use a brush and potentially cotton tips and stuff like that on the fan. This will be removable so it can be cleaned, and then I'll just have a bottom plastic shell that I can clean up. So actually I'll pop these pieces out in here so that you guys can see that, and then I'll take it all outside for a clean up and I'll come back. Yeah, lots of dirt build up. That's where the fan sits and spins around for 20 years without being opened up. So we expect to see some dirt in here. And from here, the heat sinks just pop out. And then they can be blown out as well and cleaned up properly. So this is definitely going to make a really nice improvement to this console. Obviously, we don't really know how it was running before, but when you see the amount of dirt that's in here and dust, cleaning this out could never be a bad thing at all. Alright, everything's been dedusted and cleaned as good as I can with the time that I spent on it. So we're going to begin reassembly now. It is looking a lot better. It's going to be able to breathe a lot easier. It makes me feel a bit better about handing this over to somebody as well. So firstly, I'm just going to grab the heatsink. Make sure that's all lined up nicely and that it doesn't move. There is some locating holes on the bottom of this. So with the fan, it's got a locating tab here so that you know where to put it. The tab lines up with this one just here. This part of the board, the thermal pads are really deteriorated. This one fell apart when I was cleaning it. This one's covered in dust. And this one has come loose. I don't have a replacement for this one. I just have to run this one again. Alright, I don't have thermal pads of the right size, but these two together are about right and at the same thickness. I definitely don't have one that's this big. That's something I need to look into getting. These ones are a little bit thicker too, so I don't want to mess with that too much. This one's been cleaned up quite a bit though, and once the board's sitting on it, it's going to be fine. So bringing this into the console now, there are some standoffs for it that it's got to line up with, and then you'll be all sweet and sort of drops into place just like that. Then we've got the board itself. We just need to put some thermal paste on the board. For thermal paste, I use Arctic MX4. This seems to be the recommended paste for these sorts of consoles. MX6 is a little bit better, but also a little bit more expensive and not exactly a necessity. So this is what we'll be using for today. Everyone has their own way of doing this. I like to make sure that I put a decent amount on here and spread it evenly in a thin layer with this. Some people just do a little bit of a dot and then let the heat spreader do the rest. I like to just be sure that it has spread and I'm not sort of leaving anything to chance because I know that it's been done. Just get enough on there that I can sort of spread that around after, and same on this side. And then, yeah, I'll just try and get it into an angle that's comfortable for my hand to hold this, because this is angled and I want to try and have the angle matching the way my hand's moving against the chip. At least that's how I like to do it anyway. So, and then, yeah, I'm just pressing very, very gently to let it spread. And then I'll come and fix it up after. We change direction, try and get some of the paste from the other side. So they're both done. Sometimes you'll get a little bit that pulls up over the sides here. It's not too big of a deal. Like I said before, when you're cleaning it up, you don't need to get every little piece, but keep in mind some thermal paste is conductive. So if you're using a conductive thermal paste for whatever reason, it will definitely matter. So be wary of that. Okay, so with that done, pull this back across. Thermal pads are still in place. Flipping this over, trying not to make contact with the thermal paste until it's on the heat spreader. This also lines up, so it will just drop into place through those same guides that the lower piece was using. So that's sitting in place now. The next piece to go on is this one here. I'm just going to give this a quick cleanup. All right, I've just given this one a quick cleanup. It doesn't look great because it is corroded like we saw before. Speaking of which, it doesn't really appear to be evident corrosion on this board. I haven't seen anything that we need to worry about yet, and this console was working before. So let's just put it back together and it should be golden. Firstly, we're going to put the clamps back down on top of the chips so that we can get the thermal paste setting. These are probably the most important screws on the entire console, so you want to make sure that you do these up nicely. Come back and double check them after to make sure that they are down. I don't tighten them all the way up until I've done all four, sort of like how we tighten up wheel nuts on a car. Just want to make sure that it's all sitting right on both sides before I come through and do the final tighten. So final on that one, that one, and that one. So they're done. Next up, this is going back in. I didn't clean that. I'm just going to quickly brush this off. So dropping the USB port back in there, Just make sure the Wi-Fi antenna piece is out. I like to connect this straight away because it's probably quite easy to forget. That just clicks into place. All right, next up we've got cover for that part. Before the drive goes in, it's best to put this in place. I've made this mistake a few times and it's a little bit harder to get this piece to sit when you've got the drive in there already. So I'll just sit it in place now, slide the drive in, click that in. Just gonna pop the screw in the drive. Cool. Now we begin reassembling the many screws. At this point we're ready for the disk drive to come back in. So I just want to lift this connector back up carefully again. Slide this ribbon cable connector underneath. Just make sure it's in as far as it wants to go. And then push this down. Make sure the black line is pretty much in line with the black line of the connector itself. Connect this back to the board. Power supply comes back in now. Just lining it up on the pins, pushing it down so that it sits in its position. Just going to do this out of order from how I put it together, but pop this ribbon cable in. Okay, at this point I would normally want to test the console, but we're just going to continue putting it back together because I want to give the thermal paste more time to set, and I'm pretty confident that there's going to be nothing wrong with this now. Be right back. Lastly, we have the top cover. I've just given it a quick wipe, but it's under some direct light, so it doesn't look too great, and it's got some wear anyway. Looking a lot better. Again, not chasing perfection, just trying to improve it so that it can breathe a little bit better and doesn't look so crap. And if you're wondering why I didn't clean this before, I'm also wondering this myself. It was just in a different spot in the room. I kind of didn't think about it. So, same as before, just dropping it in from the front. There should be no resistance when you put this together, and then it's going to click, and then we're going to whiz all the screws back in. Before I get started with this, by the way, there is one short screw, and it's this one here, and that's marked S. S for short, I assume. There we go. And then I'm just going to pop the security screw in the end. All right, that's done, plugged up now, and should be good to go. Obviously we want to do a little bit more of a tidy up before it goes for sale, but first thing we need to do now is plug it in and see if it still works. All right, so we got the console all hooked up here. Just flick the switch, we've got a red power light, and we'll give it a go. Nothing. I must have bumped the little bit of metal that receives this button on the other side, so joys. Get to pop it all back open and have a quick look. All right, we're back in business now. I could have cut that and pretended like it never happened, but I want to keep it real with you guys. Sometimes you can do something simple and you assemble it, and something is just simply out of alignment. So yeah, the metal tab which connects to the power button on the inside of the case was just not aligned properly. There was nothing visibly wrong with it. I didn't snap it or bend it or anything. I just simply adjusted it a tiny little bit and reset the case, and I've turned it on. It does turn on, and I've immediately flipped it off. So power. Boom, that's a lot better. Just grab my controller. So the console's booting back up again. That's a good sign. It's going to ask us for the time because the CMOS battery was already dying, but we have replaced it. Cool, everything's looking good here. Alright guys, I had to take a break for dinner, but we're back at it now. So jumping into here, I just want to have a look at the temperature of the console now at idle before I go through and update the firmware. We're going to install just original firmware onto this console and get rid of the modded stuff. It's a really hot day where I am right now. 43 degrees Celsius was our forecasted weather temperature. Fat PS3s do run hot, so 70 degrees is perfectly fine for one of these. 10 degrees difference between the RSX and CPUs. Yeah, no worries, happy with that. So we're gonna reset the firmware now back to standard. So I've just put an update file on a USB stick, and it's gonna update via storage media here. all going well, the console should be able to update back to original firmware without any issues. So that's booted back into normal firmware now. There's still these homebrew programs on here which aren't going to do anything for the console now, so we need to do a factory reset. But firstly, I'm just going to put a disc in Call of Duty again, make sure that it still works, still reads the disc, and then yeah, we'll reset this console ready for its new owner. Now it's picked up the disc and it's going to auto play it. Seen enough there. We've seen it play this game before. This time, we're not going to forget about my disc. Take that back. Let's do a quick format on here. Nice, and now this one's at the setup screen ready for its new owner. So I'm going to leave it here so that whoever buys it can get the sort of fresh console experience. But yeah, this one's pretty much ready to go. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave the top cover how it is, or if I'll find another one from one of the other consoles that looks a bit better, or if I'll give a go at polishing it with something. I'll definitely show you some of that in the videos that are upcoming. I'm not sure if I'll end up showing this console again or in what manner I will, because I do want to focus on moving some of this stock while we make this series, and then I'll have some figures that I can show you at the end about sort of what I've sold the consoles for and that sort of thing. The top cover is still marked on this one, but they really are at a point where most of these consoles that you find have got some damage. And unless it's like a single owner console and they've really looked after it, they're the ones that paid full price for it in the beginning. I'm going to turn this console off and we can get started on the next one. So the second console we're working on today is the CECHL, which won't currently read a disc. So we did get it to display last video, but we can't get it to read a disc. And what I want to do now is just test it with a DVD. Last time we tested it with a Blu-ray game, it didn't read that. It's a good idea to test it with a DVD because there's two lasers. There's a DVD laser and a Blu-ray laser. It helps determine whether the complete laser unit has failed or if it's just one of the two. All right, I got a test DVD here. Masters of Spinjitzu. It's a Lego movie that I pulled out of another PlayStation at some point, I think. Alright, spinning logo at the top. Still spinning. Yeah, spins forever. So same issue as the game. So we're gonna have to pull the lid off and open the disk drive up and try and see if we can figure out what's going on in there before we go any further with the console. Of course, I forgot my disc again. Alright, so looking at this, I want to test the disk drive with the cover off the top of it so I can see what's going on. It's also going to allow me to see what's built up inside, whether there's dust and that sort of stuff. It'll allow me to clean the laser. To get this cover off, this metal cover off, we first have to take the power supply out temporarily, then take this off, flip it over and undo some screws, and then partially reassemble it, put the power supply back in and test it a few times. What's actually happening is the disc is not spinning at all. So I just confirmed this after I turned the camera off before. Put a disc in here, and if you note where the disc ends up when it goes in the drive, and then note how it looks when it comes back out, you can figure this out. So I was putting the disc in a certain way, and it would spin it in, and then it would not spin the disc, as in the laser is not telling the console to spin, or it's not recognizing that there's a disc in there or something like that. And then it will spit the disc back out exactly how it was before. If you do this a couple of times, you can confirm 100% that it is not spinning the disc. And then we know when we pull this apart and we have it connected to power and we're playing with it, that if the disc spins, it's probably fixed. And note how this is different to the last console we worked on. It does not have that big ribbon connector connecting the USB part of the motherboard to the main board. There's a bit of dust built up in here. I will brush this off quickly. This one also has a different style ribbon connector as well. The other one was quite a bit longer. Again, be really careful not to overdo it with these. All right, this is out. Get this out of the way. All right, on the back here, we have a couple of screws up here, and we've got a couple on the front. Cool, with them done, this sort of bends over the front here. No issues here. Sometimes these top covers can end up with a dent in them. This one's all good. All right, then we have the drive itself. We want to get the top cover off of it. So there's a tab on each side and there's 2 screws at each end. Cool, and with that done, this all pops out. Just be mindful of this piece here. This is the magnet that holds the CD down. Next, we want to pop this piece out just here. That just lifts out. And then we have access to the drive itself. So if we want to sort of partially reassemble the console and test the drive, we can pop a disc on here, and then we can just pop the magnet on top, and it will stop it from spinning around the room everywhere. All right, first thing I'm going to do is give the laser a bit of a clean. I think that's probably the best first move for any sort of diagnosis on a laser. So just gently dabbing it. It's 100% isopropyl, and I've got a clean cotton tip here. I suspect with this console, it's probably going to be a failed laser unit entirely. And to test these, we need to trick the console into thinking the disc is lifted. Take out the screw here above the motor. Lift this off like so. Just sit that to the side, and then that's going to give us access to this one right next to it. And then this is going to disengage the mechanism from the front part of the disk drive. Pop this gear out, and I can put this back down. Sorry, the other way around. So now with this gear disengaged from the motor, which is currently not powered, we can then lift the tray up by pushing these 2 guides up at the same time. If you push one and not the other, it will not work. You've got to kind of push them together, and we'll see that the disk drive lifts. Let's see if I can do it up on this angle here. So pushing up together, there we go. What that's going to do is once we have the disk drive back in the console, it's going to trigger it and allow it to read if it's going to work. Just going to give the ribbon cable connector a bit of a clean with isopropyl as well before I connect it back up. And I've considered doing this one as well. I'm going to do it. I might as well while I'm here. Quite a bit of stuff has come off of one of these. Might do that again on the first cable just to be sure. Yeah, there is some stuff that's come off of that. So because I mean, look, in this drive, it's actually surprisingly clean. I've seen all kinds of dust and hair and stuff inside these drives. This one is pretty clean. I've had to look pretty closely, and I didn't see any dust on the laser or anything like that. That was visible anyway. But this is the first dirt I've seen. It's on this connector here, so that's kind of interesting. I'm just going to get in the underside of here too. Plug this back in. That's good. Set these aside for the minute. Except this part, you want this. Get the console back over here. So we're going to sit the disk drive back in its home. I want to be really sure that this ribbon cable is in as far as it goes, because that can be all of your issues right there. Connect the drive back to the board, get the power supply back on the scenario, plug that end in. If you ever do this, make sure that this thing is grounded. I haven't undone the grounding screw at this time. That's plugged in now. I want to give it some power. Alright, we don't need video at this point. All we want to see is that the disc spins. If it doesn't spin, I want to turn the lights off in this room and just have a look to see if a laser even turns on to begin with, now that I can see everything that's going on. If no laser turns on, then the laser's probably dead and we're going to pinch another one. So I'm just pressing these switches at the front here because it lets the console know that a disc has been coming in. nothing's happening at all. So we're not in any luck at the moment. My bad, guys. I realized that these things had dropped down when I was putting this back together. So what was happening was the motor was spinning to try and receive a disc, which I could feel when I was pressing this button here, but it wasn't going to the next stage, which is the laser trying to work. So I just want to trick it up now. Okay, all right, the laser's moving now. It's trying to read. Yeah, nothing happening. So I think it's failing that first read, and then it doesn't want anything to do with it anymore, and it's waiting for us to eject the disc. All right, I'm going to turn the lights off and see if I can see anything. All right, trying it out now. Didn't see anything. Lifting it up again, trying now. Nothing. So I think the laser's dead. So we're going to go and fish another laser out and see what happens. So the lasers look the exact same. We don't know if this one will work or not because the console it came out of wasn't working, but the console it's come out of was very tidy. So I think we're in for a pretty good shot here. I'm going to swap the lasers over now and we'll hope for the best. All right, so that's the old laser. It's coming out now. And before I put the new laser in, I'm just going to re-grease this rail just here. So just using some lithium grease on the rail, because over time this has dried up a bit. So first step, I'm going to just quickly wipe over this with alcohol, then I'm going to apply the new grease. Don't want too much at all. It'll work itself into the guide as it operates as well. Quickly give this one a clean up. This is the new one that's going in. Okay, with that done, I'm gonna drop this back in here. Grab that rail from before. Push it in until it hits the stop. Flick it in on the side. Make sure it moves freely. That's looking pretty good. I'm gonna change my gloves and clean that cable. So that's the new laser sitting in there and connected. Just gotta put the screws and brackets back down on here. Okay, so that's all back together now. Laser sitting on the rail. That's connected to the gear motor, and the little tabs that hold the rail down are in place. So we should be able to trick this into trying to read a disc now, and we'll see if this works. Oh, there we go. Yep, so new laser in there and it's spinning now. That was a good sign. Spinning up again. That kind of sounds like it's going for a final spin. So maybe I'll plug this in. Bear with me, I'm just going to cut for a second. We're going to figure out if this is actually playing the video or not. Nice, so that's working. Call of Duty back on the scene and see if it will load that up now. Spinning the disc already, this is a good sign. There we go. You guys can't see it at the moment, I'll show you after, but Call of Duty World at War has appeared. So it was just a faulty laser after all. You can see the laser reading through the disc right now actually. So one of those CECHH models with the yellow light of death has just saved one of these consoles with its laser, and I'm sure there will be another part or two that we can pull off of that in the future, potentially like a power supply to help another console, or I can still get the syscon codes from that console, figure out whether it was a GPU failure or not. Given how clean the console was, it doesn't look like it ran too much, so maybe it is just a token failure, and then we can look at maybe bringing that back with capacitors, and if I find another laser in this lot, or if I order one in. So that console is not completely written off yet either, but it has contributed in some way and made up some value for itself, so that's great. Now we're gonna reassemble the disk drive, tear the console apart a little bit more to get to the thermal paste, give that a clean and a change. I don't think I'm gonna go for a deep dive into the fan with this one because the console hasn't looked too bad to this point, but I'll make that assessment when we get underneath. Okay, takes a disc, ejects a disc. Got World at War in. Cool. World at War's popped up. That is great. Every time I've started this, it's asked me for the time, so the clock battery is going to be replaced, and we're also going to do the thermal paste. The thermal paste is really old and dry. This console hadn't been opened up until today either. Right, so I think my GoPro died. It just, yeah, no matter what battery I put in it or what cable I used, it didn't want to work anymore. So the iPhone is recording now. But yeah, the next step was just basically to clean this up. So to get, well, we can definitely see this now. The dried up thermal paste off of the board here, and yeah, just clear up some of that dust back there too. Cool, they're looking really good. So we can see the RSX writing, and cell's a bit harder to read, but we can make out that there's some text there. Also a nice chunk of dust right here. Get that out of here. So this is ready for thermal paste now. The battery's been changed. I'm just gonna poke my head underneath the bottom cover and see what the fan looks like. And we also need to clean off the thermal paste that's on the heatsink as well. Overall, it's actually pretty tidy in here, so I'm just going to leave it how it is for the most part. Okay, I'm happy with that. This is ready for the motherboard, just got to prepare the motherboard for it. Right, back at it with the thermal paste. Alright, I don't want to play myself again this time, so I am going to test the console before we put the top cover on. Just make sure that everything's happy. Looking good. The disc is spinning up, I could hear that. And the disc comes back out, so we're all good to put the lid on. Just going to clean this dirt out real quick. Alright, looking a lot better. Just giving the top cover a bit of a clean inside and out as well. Has no hard drive tray, so I'm just going to find one for it, and we'll pop this screw back in here. Alright, I've just pulled one off one of the other consoles. Turns out that was hiding a lack of hard drive anyway. There was no hard drive inside the one that I just pulled this off. Boom. So she's sorted now. I'm going to change camera. We're going to do a final test on it together, and then we can finally move on to the last console. So we're back over to the screen now for what will hopefully be our last test of this console. Firstly, power button. This one working straight away is nice. It didn't ask me for the time this time. So firstly, I'm going to pop in the Lego DVD. DVD video is here. That'll do. How good. So we've fixed the issue there. Lastly, I'll just prove to you guys that Call of Duty does actually load, and we can call this one fixed. And then after that, I think I forgot to mention, we're also going to install original firmware on this console too, because I don't really want to sell the console with firmware that's on it right now with the current user and the game data and stuff that's on here. And we can see Call of Duty loads up just here. So bring over my trusty USB from before. Gonna head over here and do the system reset just like we did with the other one. This one's reset now. Now we're gonna put this one aside. We've fixed the disk drive issue. The console seems to all be working. All right, and then lastly, we've got this JO2. So this one, they say it's overheating. It's a triple beep failure. This one took about 5 to 10 seconds to have the error. So yeah, I'm gonna pop the lid off, connect up the jumper leads for the serial adapter, and we're gonna extract the syscon code. All right guys, it's been about 24 hours and I've just come back to this now. So I've soldered 2 of the jumper wires onto the board. There are some diagnosis pads on each revision of the motherboard, but each revision varies slightly in where you need to solder these connections to. In this case, this model number down here is DIA002, which is a pretty common one that I see. The other common one here in Australia seems to be the version 1, so VER001, and that one has slightly different solder points, but yeah, pretty straightforward. Just a couple of jumper leads soldered to these 2 pads here, and then we need to put one more on for ground. I usually run the ground one just underneath the screw over here, the factory ground strap for this console, so I'm going to do that. And there is actually a third pad here. It's a diag pad. I'm not going to need to use it, but there are certain applications where you do need to solder to that pad as well. But all I'm trying to get is the syscon error log, and that is going to be possible with what I've soldered on here. So I just nipped the screw back up on top of the jumper wire here. I just threw it up loosely so that it's not putting too much load on the screw or the jumper wire itself. So everything here is ready now. The jumper wire is sitting under the ground screw. The others are connected. I do have a bit of a jumper cable snake going on here over to the USB serial adapter, which is going to connect to my computer, and that's what we're going to use to extract the code. I use a MacBook, so I'm going to be using Terminal. That's a little bit difficult. A lot of the tutorials for this involve Windows computers, which is pretty standard for this kind of diagnosis work. I do need to build another Windows computer or get one soon to make this sort of work a little bit easier, but I've managed to get it working on Mac, so I can extract the syscon codes, and I'll probably do a screen capture of the terminal doing its thing. From here though, I just want to make sure that the console is powered, so we're going to have the red standby light on. So that's on in the corner up here. So now the console side of it's ready to go. I'm just going to plug the USB in and get that ready. We've just loaded up the Python script which enables the USB serial adapter to access the console, or more so the motherboard. It's given us authorization now. There's a really good syscon tutorial on psxplace.com, which is what I've used to get a lot of the information in order to be able to do this. So now we're just going to be able to give it a command to be able to get the error log. So I'm going to copy that in here now. And it's going to do this one by one. Cool, so that's finished now. All of the most recent errors are the ones that are logged up the top here. So these are all 1002 errors. So This is RSX neck tokens from my experience, which is pretty much what I expected from this model. That is the failure point. This doesn't have the faulty RSX fitted to it. So the next failure point with these is the neck tokens themselves as they fail with age. We're going to replace those with some tantalum capacitors, and this console should be brought back to life. Just touching on the codes quickly too, this section of it here indicates what date and time the error occurred, so long as the battery was working at the time. And this section in the middle here refers to the actual code itself, and there's a couple of components here. I believe this is always A. There's a part here which basically says what status the console was in, whether it had successfully booted up and gone through its processes and was running when it crashed, or if it didn't quite make it that far. And then the last portion of it is the error code itself. The last 4 numbers point toward what your error is going to be relating to. 1002 is a common neck token error code. There's a great page on psdevwiki.com called Syscon Error Codes, and that goes into a lot of detail about how to read these codes, what all the numbers mean, and what a typical code means in terms of your failure within your console. If you're curious what the serial adapter looks like, it's basically one of these. So all of those jumper leads feed into here on the respective pins. So the ground, TX and RX. If you buy these from AliExpress or eBay or whatever, they often have an option for 3.3 or 5 volts. It's really important to make sure you set this to 3.3 volts, otherwise you may damage your motherboard. And then what we're going to be replacing are these 2 neck tokens right here. I'm going to keep the ones on the underside, and I'm going to be fitting 3 470 microfarad capacitors per neck token here. So there'll be 6 in total. These are rated to about 1000 microfarad on this side here. These ones have a larger capacitance than the ones on this side here. The 3 470 microfarad capacitors will be more than enough, and they're low ESR ones as well. And these are what we're going to be replacing it with. 470 per capacitor. Was just pulling this board out and found a nice little spider sack in here, so that's pretty great. We love that. Alright, so the capacitor replacement is done. I'm not the best solderer in the world, but it's neat enough for me. I tend to put these 2 on diagonally like this, and then I scrape off the solder mask for these ones here because I want to put 2 side by side and they just need ground. And because we're keeping the neck tokens on this side, they complete the circuit for these as well, so there's no need to run an extra wire to link them together or anything like that, because the existing capacitors on the back side of the board will do that for us. So this should be sufficient. The next thing that we need to do with this console is clean off the old thermal paste, or what's left of it, replace the clock battery and get into the case. It looks like that's going to need a bit of a deep clean like the first console, and hopefully we don't uncover the mother spider in charge of the egg sac. We're also going to put Kapton tape on top of the capacitors to stop them from shorting out on the metal heat shield that sits on top of this. Cool, so they're nice and protected now. Can't make contact with any metal or anything like that. So now I'm just going to clean the thermal paste off of the top of the cell and the RSX here. They're looking nice and good now. We can read the RSX text and faintly make out the cell text. Just going to tidy up the rest of the board. Alright, next up we want to get the clock battery out. You gotta be careful with these not to snap the plastic tab that retains the battery. There is one in each corner, these top ones as well. These ones can snap, and that can then become a bit of a nightmare for you to fix that. New battery's in. The board is ready to go back into the console, should be fixed now. I've just got to get into the bottom of the console and give that a quick tidy up. Alright, so the bottom of the console's here. This is going to come out. I'm going to have a look at the fan, probably take that apart and give it all a clean and get the thermal paste off of here, but I don't want to open this up in here because of the egg sac. It's probably really old, but I don't want to take any chances because I just had 100 spiders hatch last week above my desk just here in the corner, so I can't say whether they came from a console or not, or if it's just bad luck. but I don't want to take my chances anymore, so this is going outside. Alright, it's all cleaned up now, ready to go. I can confirm I didn't find a spider in there, but I did find half a dead cockroach sitting just about here, so that's cool. And in case you can't tell, I really hate spiders, and in Australia we have a lot of them. Heat sinks have been cleaned up, removed thermal paste, fan, I've given that a deep clean with the brush everywhere that I could reach. There was a lot of dust in here, so this definitely needed the clean up. I feel a lot better now that that's done. Time to apply thermal paste. Thermal paste is done. Now we can sit the board back in the case. I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of it back together now, and then we're going to give it a test and hope that it works. Alright, I'm going to do something crazy here and probably jinx myself again. I'm going to put the console back together, so I'm going to put the lid on and the top cover, and then we're going to test it. No screws left over. Time to test the console, so this is exciting. Click the power switch, we've got the red power light indicator. Green light. Hasn't given me an instant yellow light of death, so that's nice, but this one did take about 10 seconds before. Oh, we've got sound. No video yet. There we go. Hell yeah. So this one's brought back from the dead. I'm just gonna grab my controller and we'll have a look. So far, it's not making any crazy fan noise either, so that's promising. Alright, cool thing about bringing consoles back from the dead is that sometimes the previous owner didn't get a chance to erase anything, and you can sort of see what they were doing with the console, what games they were playing. If they had warning signs, like if this was infrequently crashing and they had a feeling it was going to fail, they might have cleaned it out. Looks like it's another console with custom firmware. I didn't actually catch that when it was booting up, so that's interesting. Here we go, Gran Turismo 5, last played or installed in 2020. Skate 3, another great game. Cars 3, I don't know about that one. Daniel is the user. Tiny hard drive, the 40 gigabytes, so the standard hard drive for this model, on 4.86 firmware. Just load up Multiman here and see if it'll give us the temperature. That's ideal. 67 degrees CPU temperature and 61 degrees RSX temperature. That's a great temperature for this console, and considering that the fault written on the front of it is that it was overheating, you know, that could have been a misconception anyway. They might have been thinking that because it was crashing it was overheating, but it was actually the tokens. But anyway, I find it satisfying knowing that this console's been brought back from the dead and the temperature is sitting perfectly within spec. Now for this console, it's time to install original firmware as we've done with the other consoles, and there is a bit of work that needs to go into this console as well. It is missing the PlayStation logo. I need to probably find a better front cover for it because this is the one that had small gouges in it. And from memory, no. Okay, this one's good. I think one of the consoles might be missing this trim piece here. So yeah, a little bit's going to go into them before they actually get put up for sale. They need to be tested a little bit further as well. But for now, for the purpose of this video, the 3 consoles are fixed. So that is fantastic news. It's the outcome that I was expecting and that I was hoping for. So I'm very happy with that. There's always something that I want to check before the software update, and that is the runtime. Alright, let's see what this runtime is. I'm guessing around 250 days, but we'll see how we go. No, it's more than that. 304 days, 16 hours. We've got 3,654 boot count, 3,614 shutdown count. So that's actually pretty impressive that those figures are so close, given that there's so many boot counts. It means whoever's owned this in the past has done the right thing by it, but it has still let them down. Now there is something else we need to check, guys. We need to check the disk drive. It's a pretty important feature of the console. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna get that Lego DVD and Call of Duty and see what happens. First up, the Lego DVD. That's appeared, it's auto playing. Alright, cool. That all seems good. It's giving me the disc back. Alright, next up we're going to put in Call of Duty. Seems to be a little bit hesitant right on the entry point there for the disc drive, but the smallest little tap and it was encouraged to move, so I don't really think there's an issue there. And Call of Duty is loading up as well, so the laser is working perfectly for these. This console will undergo a bit more of a stress test with Gran Turismo 5 or something similar to that, just to ensure that the capacitors are going to hold up and that there's no other issues that sneak their way through. It's time to update the firmware. 3 for 3 on the consoles that have custom firmware. A bit of a common thing these days. I do have it on my own console, so I do understand it. It's just quite complicated, so it's not really an appropriate thing to be selling with every console that I have up for sale. I think it could be a bit of a deterrent to more people than it is actually a positive thing. But it's definitely something that I'm willing to install. I'm willing to run through with somebody as to how it works. I have done hard drive upgrades and custom firmware installs for clients before. Now the software update is done, running 4.92 original firmware. I'm not going to reset this console just yet because I want to come back and stress test it, so it's going to be easier with the user profile still on here. But for now, I'm going to shut this console down and I'm going to chat about what we've achieved today on these 3 consoles. Alright, so coming into the end of today's video, we've worked on these 3 consoles beside me, which were a CECHK, L and a J model respectively. The CECHK model was working beforehand, but it's definitely in need of a general tidy up and service, which we've done. We've now tested the console and it's working great. Secondly, we had the CECHL, so this one had a disk drive error. So we've also disassembled that console, given it a service, disassembled the disk drive and determined that the laser is faulty. We've replaced the laser from another unit that we've got here, reassembled the console and tested that one, and that's all good as well. And then lastly, we had the CECHJ model here that had the yellow light of death. So we got the syscon codes from the motherboard and determined that it was likely a neck token failure. We've replaced those with tantalum capacitors, reassembled that console after servicing it and tested it, and it's also all good. So we're 3 for 3 on today's consoles, which is great, but we've got 14 more to go. So thank you for watching, and if you are interested in following along with this series, we still have a bunch more consoles to fix. Please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you, have a great day.